baseball in 1957 and met with Presidents Dwight Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, and Richard Nixon. Robinson would not be happy with the current president. Robinson would be encouraged by the fact that both of Major League Baseball's black managers are right here in Southern California. The Dodgers' Dave Roberts and Ron Washington with the Angels. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and for over 20 years, Parkside Economic Development Corporation has served Leimert Park and surrounding communities, empowering tomorrow's leaders and changing lives. Parkside EDC has awarded over $400,000 in college scholarships while sharing economic principles of the Big Five of money with students and their families. Parkside EDC partners with organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade to assure our youth have the financial acumen to succeed. Parkside EDC provides families and businesses with financial insights, offering free online, on-site, and on-air B-Warp presentations. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Programs helps our community acquire, sustain, and pass down legacy wealth. High school seniors can apply for this year's scholarship awards at parksideedc.org. Scholarships will be awarded at Parkside EDC's Gospel/Jazz Brunch on Sunday, April the 27th. For details, tickets, or donations, please visit parksideedc.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome to Wealth Building Wednesdays, where we center Black, women, and BIPOC-owned businesses, highlight opportunities and initiatives for underrepresented entrepreneurs, and center socially innovative enterprises, building generational prosperity, fostering real networking, and recycling Black dollars. It's Wealth Building Wednesdays on KBLA Talk 1580.
And I know you've been hearing me talk about the Hawthorne Business Expo, something I did last year, and I'm doing it again this year. So excited. That is next week, by the way. Hawthorne Business Expo and Job Fair 2025 is April 24th, which is a week from tomorrow, from 3 to 7 at the Hawthorne Memorial Center, 3901 West El Segundo Boulevard in Hawthorne. And it is presented by Mayor Pro Tem Katrina Manning, moderated by me, guest speaker Rance Dobson of 1500 or Nothing. He's actually a Grammy Award winner, and he's a producer and CEO over there. So a lot of things happening at the Hawthorne Business Expo, and hope everyone will come out. It's free. We are featuring this week leading up to the expo some of the participants, the people that make it possible, and the folks you will have an opportunity to meet should you come. Folks that can help you with your small business or your individual plans to launch a business or help you find a job, get information to keep your existing business afloat, all those kinds of things. We're being joined right now by the Vice President and Client Advisor for Partners Bank of California. He's got all kinds of expertise in banking and business development, loan origination and structuring, client relationships, and more. In fact, he passed up an annual loan target of $25 million, which shows he knows what he's doing. He knows how to deliver financial solutions for businesses. Redy Babasa-Thompson, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. So you guys will be part of the Hawthorne Business Expo.
Yes, I'm actually pretty excited, and it's a privilege to be part of this annual big business expo for the city of Hawthorne. And I thank Mayor Pro Katrina for inviting me, who happens to be my fellow advisory board for Cal State University Dominguez Hills.
So you're on the advisory board for Dominguez Hills.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so as small business owners, I am one. Many times you think about your product, you think about what you're trying to get out there, how you can survive. I don't think we think about the fun, sexy parts of being a business. We sometimes don't give enough thought to the financial underpinnings, the banks, our relationship with banks. Talk a little bit about that and why it's important.
Well, it's very, very important, especially for entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs. I usually coach them or guide them to make sure that they are organized with their financials. Study what they have, what they can afford to have. Know their credit profile.
Yeah, we've been having that conversation this week, partly because it's tax week, right? Tax day was yesterday. Know your credit profile as a business, not just as an individual.
Yes.
And why does that matter?
Well, it matters because that's where the lenders look at it. If basically you're ready to open your business, or you're ready for such loan that you plan to borrow, because whatever you have in mind, this particular amount, the lender will look at your financials and see if your financials can afford it, or you'll be able to pay back the money that you are looking for.
Right. So credit is super important. What is the mistake that you see, or what are the main mistakes that you see most small business owners making?
Well, most of them are not ready. They just sometimes thought about it, but not really know how to begin or how to prepare for it.
Right, so we're just like, I'm going to start selling my pies, but we don't have a business plan,
Correct.
Our taxes,
Exactly.
Investors, a marketing plan. I know when I started my business, I didn't even think about marketing. I was like, I'll do this, and then I'll just get clients. So I had no marketing budget whatsoever set aside.
Yeah, you have to have a financial forecast for the next few years when you plan to have your own business, because that's what the lender look for. That you're really ready. And when you're ready, you want to make sure you partner with your CPA, the one that does your financials.
Okay, and what about the many businesses that don't have a certified public accountant?
Well, they can actually go to public places like PACE. I used to work for PACE, Pacific Asian Consortium in Employment.
Right.
It's a big nonprofit organization that was created by Kerry Doy that serves the underserved community.
Right, or like the Vermont Sloss and Economic Development Corporation.
Of course. That's one of them as well.
Yeah, they can provide support for your business.
They have advisor, coach that can really help you one-on-one and understand what you need to prepare.
Yeah. So tell me how you guys are going to be participating in the expo.
Well, I will be participating kind of exciting for me, because I have to share what I've done over the years, what I've become, how I was on this position right now, and how I could help people that are aspiring to expand their business, the assistance that they're looking for. So when they're in that particular point, they would know exactly what to prepare and what to do, instead of thinking, I get it, and then you just get disappointed because you didn't know that you missed something. Because it's always good to have yourself ready, especially when you are, building your own business or either expanding.
Yeah. Well, your name is Redy, so of course you want people to be ready. But that's interesting too, because I feel like one of the challenges for many small businesses and Black and BIPOC owned businesses is that once we get the opportunity to expand, we don't have the capacity to level up?
Well, there is always a capacity to level up. It's just basically understanding what you're doing, understanding really, what your business is about. Like you always have your plan, your business plan, because if you follow your business plan, you will succeed and meet what your goals.
Your business
may be.
plan is a roadmap, in other words.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you'll be talking to people about giving them the sort of the basics of building a plan so that you can succeed, whether it's starting something new or growing what you have bigger.
Yes. Right now, what I do are bigger version of a business. I usually help clients that are expanding. I help clients that are seeking for bigger funding, $1 million and above. And usually there are different kinds of program for you to apply for. For example, SBA,
Small
7A,
Business Administration,
or SBA 504, and especially for business that are established and wanted to grow. Like for example, you're a business owner for a few years and you've been profitable, and you realize because your CPA had advised you that it's better off for you to move and buy a commercial real estate instead of leasing.
right?
And then that's when you come and see me as a lender or as an advisor to help you out apply for a commercial real estate purchase in which the property you'll occupy over 51%. Then you would qualify for SBA 7A. So with that, you also wanted to have working capital to add on it and improvement for the building what you're going to be borrowing. And with that, when we put together, when I try to pre-approve you, I try to see the last 3 years of your financials to see if you meet the cash flow, if you'll be able to afford the loan that you're borrowing. And if you meet usually the lender looks for 2.5% debt service ratio, meaning to say if you reach that percentage, you can afford to buy, for example, 3 million or 4 million. And that's when you see your business is really
Thriving,
Thriving,
yes. So, Redy Babasa-Thompson, what can people do if they're not going to be at the Hawthorne Business Expo? I hope a lot of my KBLA delegation is going to be there. But if they're not, can they reach you online? Can we follow your work? Do you want to give out a contact information?
Yes. Actually, I'm a board member of Filipino American Chamber of Commerce of Greater Los Angeles. They can just go to faccgla.com and they can see me there. And it's like an open book for small businesses that are thriving, that are wanted to grow. And if they can't, they can always go to Vermont Slauson or Pace.
Right.
Or,
There's options.
Or they can call me. They can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And they can contact me, and it will be a privilege for me to assist them. I've helped probably hundreds of small businesses in the city and county of Los Angeles, and I'm very happy and proud that I was able to help a lot of businesses that start up and became a multi-million business.
Yeah,
and I'm
that's
very
incredible.
proud of it.
You should be, as you should be.
Yeah.
Keeping our businesses thriving in this area is super important. So reach him through the Filipino American Chamber of Commerce of Greater Los Angeles on LinkedIn under Redy Babasa-Thompson, or come to the Hawthorne Business Expo and see me, see Redy, and you'll also see rants from 1500 or Nothing, along with the Mayor Pro Tem of the city of Hawthorne, Katrina Manning. Thank you so much for coming in and talking with us this morning.
Well, thank you. I love helping the community. I'm very active, helping our community here within the greater Los Angeles. In fact, I'm also a Rotarian since 2008.
Not the Rotary Club. Yes, that's great.
and we help small businesses also. I'm always out on the go every single time, whatever I can help, to help our community as small business. I'm always here.
Well, thank you for all the work you're doing. Small businesses are the job creators of our economic engine. Small businesses recycle their dollars back into the communities where they are located, and so we need to keep them alive. We can't order everything online. And so, Redy Babasa-Thompson, thank you for the part that you're playing in keeping those businesses alive. It's the perfect time to call me, 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward. Before the fire, Altadena was a real-life Wakanda. A thriving black oasis just 15 miles from downtown Los Angeles. 80% black residents were homeowners, building intergenerational wealth against the odds. It was a hub of black-owned businesses, churches, and cultural institutions. It stood as a symbol of black resilience and economic independence. Then, in a matter of hours, it was gone. The fire tore through homes, swallowed businesses, and left behind a painful void. But was it just an unstoppable act of nature, or was negligence involved? Did officials ignore early warning signs? Were the response efforts delayed or insufficient? What role, if any, did corporate or government failures play? Survivors are demanding answers. Don't miss our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall. The Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting. On Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center, 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena. Join Dominique DiPrima, Nee Cordelai Corte, James Farr, Tavis Smiley, and a panel of survivors, community leaders, and experts as we commemorate day 100 since the wildfires flared up. And we discuss where we go from here. It's KBLA's Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting Town Hall. Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center in Pasadena. Light refreshments to follow. Admission is free, but sign-up is required at our KBLA1580.com website. The first 100 attendees will receive a complimentary air purifier. This is a community call to action, brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owe the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louie found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louie has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louie.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
You belong here, and I'm glad you are here. We're being joined right now by my assembly member. It might be yours too. He is over the 54th district. That's Baldwin Hills, Cheviot Hills, Crenshaw. You know, if I read the whole list, I'll run through all of our time. And before he was on the assembly, he was founding director of the UCLA Black Policy Project. That's a think tank dedicated to advancing racial equity, which apparently is illegal at this time. Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, welcome.
Dominique, good morning.
Good morning. Welcome in. You've been busy.
Trying to be. I think this is a moment when folks should be busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where to start? Let's start with Wakeisha's law.
Yeah.
This is Well, explain what it is and where we are in the process.
Waukesha's law is a law that we crafted and named to honor Waukesha Wilson, who left us just over 9 years ago, died in LAPD lockup custody. Her family was never notified. In fact, they went to her next court appearance looking for her. There were zeros next to her name. There was no explanation of what that means or why. It took 4 days of trying to track down information on their own to find out what had happened to her. And what we found is there's a gap in state law that allows for that to be okay and legal. But it's not the same in state prisons. In state prisons, they have to notify you within 24 hours. And so we want to bring parity and justice to this process in Waukesha's name and make sure that any family whose loved one is seriously injured or loses their life in custody gets notified within 24 hours. Make that a responsibility, mandate it. The Sheriff's Association came out in opposition against us, even testified against Waukesha's mother and auntie, but their strength, their courage helped us secure bipartisan support from the Public Safety Committee.
I was shocked to see bipartisan support, to be honest with you. I think most of the time bipartisanship is like the Easter Bunny, but I'm glad that happened.
So I told Dr. Melina Abdullah, who was there with us, and the family, when you are a legislator, you know which Republicans reach on which issues and why, and which ones are coming from a sincere place. And there's a Republican on the Public Safety Committee. His name is Juan Alanis. He represents a purple district, and he's a former law enforcement official. He's probably the highest ranking law enforcement official in the body, which means he doesn't feel the pressure of the association the same way. He actually does what he believes is right. So if you bring him some policy, this isn't the first time he's done this. He stepped up on pay for our incarcerated firefighters as well. He turned that into a bipartisan issue. And so oftentimes, and then Juan and I built a personal relationship from my time serving on Public Safety Committee for 2 years, where we often were on opposite sides of many issues, but got to understand where each other was coming from, and he got to kind of see my heart for the work. And so when I bring something these days, I know that he takes a serious look at it. And in this instance, not every Republican stepped in and supported in the Public Safety Committee. Not every Democrat did either, but Juan did, and that's what made it bipartisan.
That's amazing that not every Democrat did.
Wild.
Yeah. So now it's out of committee. What happens next?
It goes to the Appropriations Committee. And then from there, if it is let out of the Appropriations Committee, it goes to the Assembly floor. And if it's let back on the Assembly floor, I'm going to do all that I can to whip the votes and bring Waukesha's mother and auntie back up to the Capitol so they can see the bill leave the State Assembly and move on to the State Senate. Wow,
that's great. I would think it would be good in the Appropriations Committee because it doesn't have a price tag, really, right?
It's got to go through that fiscal analysis because the price tag to get flagged by appropriations is so low. It's $150,000. Also, anytime we mandate something, it's reimbursable by the state, and so local police jurisdictions are saying, well, this will cost us more money. We have to do reporting. In fact, the Riverside sheriff wrote a letter saying literally we'll have to call 6 families a day, and I was like, 6 whole families. If each one took 5 minutes, that would be a half hour of new work. Or if you spread it around between 6 people, this could last 5 total minutes. The point is they don't need new money for this. We just have to go through the fiscal process to remind them that and show them that and prove that. And that's what will happen in the Appropriations Committee.
Also 6 people a day. What you're telling us is that you're seriously injuring or killing 6 people a day?
Right.
That's not...
That was my exact point in committee. And they wanted to raise the question about, what is seriously injured, and our definition in the bill is hospitalization outside of the carceral setting. Like if you have to take somebody out of the lockup to take them to a hospital, I would say that's serious.
This would apply to state prisons, which you said already have this rule, as well as county and city jails.
Correct.
Wow. I hope that goes well. I really do, because it seems like something that would be automatic. Oh, whoops, we killed your loved one.
Yeah, so who is her next of kin? Who is their next of kin? How do we get in touch with them? This is urgent. That's not the feeling that we're finding out, and we've got to change that culture. And I'm grateful to Lisa Hines and Sheila for coming up and giving us so much strength behind this bill and allowing us to honor Waukesha's legacy in this way and make sure no family ever finds out that they've lost their loved one the way that they had to.
Yeah, and I believe I've interviewed so many families, and it seems like I'm amazed how little communication there is between law enforcement and families of people who have been killed, either in lockup or, other ways.
Yeah.
You are also dealing with environmental justice issues. That's part of your portfolio.
That's right.
Yeah. And there was a big victory, I thought, a big victory with the passage of one of your bills.
Yeah.
But then big pushback. Where are we now?
Honestly, it is. I've never dealt with anything quite like this. So the Inglewood oil field, well over 700 oil wells. It's the largest urban oil field in the country. And it's been polluting our community for decades. It lowers your life expectancy. It increases asthma rates for our young kids. It increases the likelihood of a cardiac event for our seniors and elderly folk. And they're not getting any serious oil, right? It's not lowering your gas prices. It's not making your life more affordable. They're getting 1.5 barrels a day per well. The reason it's still there is because it costs more to clean it up, and they're still printing a little bit of money per well every single day. And so why not just let it run? And I would say that the health impacts outweigh the good that we get from it at this point. And so that's why we wrote AB 2716 last year, which calls for the closure of that field by 2030. In addition to that, it requires the company who owns the field to pay into a community fund, $20 million a year beginning this year, that can only be appropriated by the state within 2.5 miles of the oil field. I didn't want the state to repurpose this money for anything else. It belongs in the community that was directly impacted. How it gets appropriated in that community, still some things we can work out with community, but that should be, some redress for the community. The oil company, though, sued the state last Thanksgiving. And so, calling the law unconstitutional and unfair takings, singling out a single company, et cetera, et cetera. And the Department of Justice now has to defend our work. And we'll see some decisions this year. But, there's a little bit of uncertainty with that process, although we've seen the court uphold other orders to close down sections of that oil field. Culver City, for example, shut down a piece of that oil field, and they were successful through the court process. And so we feel optimistic and hopeful, but it is my first time being sued as a state legislator for fighting for the right thing.
Wow. And, but this particular, we've only got 20 seconds here, but this particular Department of Justice, seems like it would be more perilous, no?
I think any Department of Justice has to defend the actions of the state. And the actions of the state in this instance were to protect black communities in South LA from this oil field.
Okay, we're talking with Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud.
A great place for progressive politics.
KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Black New York Attorney General Letitia James, who convicted Donald Trump for real estate fraud, is now accused of property fraud herself. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director William Pulte referred James to the U.S. Department of Justice for allegations including falsifying documents for loans and misrepresenting a residence for better mortgage rates. James Madison University in Virginia is eliminating its Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department, resulting in 4 job losses. Funding will be redirected to scholarships and student services. Deacon Eddie Shedd of Empowerment Ministries Christian Center in Gulfport, Mississippi, died while protecting others during a shooting at an Easter egg hunt. The suspect allegedly opened fire due to a child custody dispute, killing Shedd and injuring another person. And South African singer Tyla reveals that she has rap songs recorded and may release one in the future. In a recent interview for Nylon magazine, she said she plans to release music that feels right at the moment. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Imagine a photograph of your favorite place in California. Then right in the middle of it, one piece of litter. Litter has no place in our lives, not one piece. Together, let's change that. Clean California. Zero litter is the goal. CleanCA.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers beat Colorado Tuesday 6-2 on Jackie Robinson Day. Every player from both teams wore a number 42 jersey in honor of Robinson, Major League Baseball's first black player. Before the game, the Dodgers and Colorado players gathered together to hear Lakers legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar talk about the importance of Robinson's legacy. Kareem called President Trump's policies on diversity, equity, and inclusion an undercover reason to discriminate. Robinson became a civil rights advocate after he retired from baseball in 1957 and met with Presidents Dwight Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, and Richard Nixon. Robinson would not be happy with the current president. Robinson would be encouraged by the fact that both of Major League Baseball's black managers are right here in Southern California. The Dodgers' Dave Roberts and Ron Washington with the Angels. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least like to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Join Council Member Curran Price and the Black Los Angeles Cannabis Council this Wednesday, April 16th at 8:30 a.m. at City Hall as they demand accountability for the city's failed cannabis social equity program. For 7 years, the city has delayed licenses, mismanaged millions of dollars in grant funding, and failed to deliver on its promises to communities harmed by the war on drugs. Meanwhile, illegal shops flood our neighborhoods with unregulated products, creating public health risks and economic devastation for Black-owned businesses trying to play by the rules. This isn't just about cannabis, it's about racial justice, economic equity, and holding city leaders to their word. Councilmember Curran Price is standing with them and speaking at the rally because enough is enough. Wednesday, April 16th, 8:30 a.m., Los Angeles City Hall. Be there and be heard. For more information, please call 347-901-8744. That's 347-901-8744.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Okay, it is a busy day around here, and we will be marking 100 days since the wildfires erupted in Altadena, asking you to join us today in the Pasadena-Altadena area for KBLA Talk 1580's Town Hall. We're commemorating this terrible day. We're also celebrating the incredible resilience of the people of Altadena, embracing our beloved Black community. We're giving away air purifiers and $100 gift cards to survivors. Please do come join us. I will be hosting the Dr. Nicordelai Corte will be co-hosting. Tavis Smiley will be there. It's from 4 to 6. It's the Altadena Eat and Fire 100 Days and Counting. It's free, but you got to register at KBLA1580.com, and then they'll tell you where to go and all the details that you need. And thank you for joining us in support of the people of Altadena.
Thank y'all for doing that.
Yeah, thank you for, well, this is going to fall under your purview as the chair of the Natural Resources Committee, right? The first Black person to chair that committee, because we're talking about insane environmental impact from these fires, right?
No, absolutely. Unimaginable. This is the most destructive damage to ever hit Los Angeles. And it's an incredibly tough time because the EPA, the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, isn't doing all the things they would do after a fire. We've appreciated the debris cleanup, But for example, they're not soil testing, or they're not reimbursing for soil testing. So they might clear the debris off a lot. You might start doing the work to try to rebuild, only to find out you are now on toxic soil. And so there's a lot of work we've got to do. The state's stepping up to fill the gaps. Quite frankly, the federal government owes us our money back. California pays over $680 billion in taxes to the federal government. We get about $600 back. We're asking for $40 billion in disaster aid relief, like everybody else who ever asked for it. It's never come with strings before, but because of the hyper-partisan moment we live in, the current administration would rather punish the 40 million people of California, the 1 in 8 total Americans, and specifically the people of Los Angeles who have lost everything to prove a political point. It's wrong. It's reckless. It's unethical. We need to help folks rebuild. We need to get our money back. But in the meantime, the state is stepping up to fill the gaps everywhere we can.
Yeah, I'm sure you saw in the LA Times this morning an article about the lead that some scientists who actually were impacted by the fires did their own personal testing of something like 76%. They found lead levels at 100 times what is allowable. And lead will permanently mess up your brain, and especially if you're a kid, lower your IQ, lower your intellectual capacity. I'm sure it's not great for older Americans either.
Right.
So is that what you mean when you say step into the gap? Because we know, as you said, that the feds aren't doing soil testing.
That's right. We're absolutely trying to step into the gap, and it's not just impacting us. They just cut lead testing in the water in Flint, Michigan. They just cut an environmental program to help a historic black community in Alabama. They called it DEI. For folks who thought DEI was just white women, yes, there's some truth to that, but we know DEI, CRT, woke, these are all just code words for black. Right. The real hard is to cut the programs that benefit the conditions of life for us. And that includes the environmental conditions that we're living in. And so it's an unsafe time, literally. But we've got to do all we can to protect each other, and all other levels of government have to step up where we can.
I mean, because even if my house isn't burned down, it's impacted, it's there, and I move back in, that's not safe.
That's correct.
If the lead levels are there, that's just not safe.
That's exactly right. And the air quality still hasn't returned. I mean, there's so much that's going to take time to rebuild from this kind of a natural disaster. It burned for an incredibly long time. Embers flew miles away. The damage and destruction is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. This isn't going to happen overnight, but I'm inspired by the work that I see happening in community. Shout out to Brandon Lamar out in Pasadena, and many other folks who have stepped up to provide direct financial aid for families and all kinds of care. I know here in Los Angeles, we were inundated with support, so much that we were able to send it out to Altadena, because we haven't forgotten our brothers and sisters out there. We know that when the president came to visit, he only went to the Palisades, but for the rest of us, out in Altadena is front and center. And that doesn't mean the people in the Palisades are not also on our minds. They are. But we know where the need is the greatest is where the most hands are needed. And so that's where we show up.
Yeah. And, it doesn't matter where you're from. We all go to the beach.
That's right.
That the fact that all that toxic, burned up refrigerators and Tesla motors and stuff is actually now draining onto the beach. That's impacting already fish, right? Yeah. Beach safety, which is kind of a state. That's one of the things that makes our state so beautiful, and so why we pay these high rents. So from the standpoint of, your position as the chair of the resource committee, what are you guys looking at to mitigate that kind of harm?
Yeah, so I've got 3 bills related to wildfire prevention that are moving through the legislature with a rapid pace around vegetation management, controlled burns, things like that. We also put $1.5 billion of wildfire mitigation money in last year's climate bond. So if you voted for Proposition 4 on your ballot, you were helping to make sure that these kinds of disasters can't happen. It wasn't an easy lift. It wasn't a bipartisan lift. It didn't have bipartisan support at the polls, but I'm grateful to the people of the state of California for stepping up and saying, hey, protecting our climate also means protecting against wildfires and natural disasters. And so we do have those new resources. We're unlocking them. I think the governor announced over $175 million in grants to conservancies to do wildfire prevention work. But we're also having conversations about what rebuilding should look like. What does home hardening look like? How do we protect from building in vulnerable, high wildfire areas? There's so many lessons to learn. And at the same time, you want to make sure everyone who's lost has an opportunity to rebuild what they had. And so we're doing all of the above. We're cutting through red tape. We're setting in new measures to keep folks safe. But this is a long journey, and I'm committed to it.
Yeah, that's part of what we're doing with this town hall. It's like, even if the rest of the media leaves, KBLA is going to keep showing up because we want to see this through to the rebuild. You talked about Measure 4, which I did vote for, and I'm glad. I was amazed and so pleased that it passed.
Yeah.
And then here we see with these wildfires exactly what you were talking about, which is investing on the front end instead of waiting until after a disaster happens. Then you end up spending a lot more to fix it than you would have to prevent it.
No, absolutely. And, some of these, to some degree, you can't fully control all these things. You're doing our best. But our wildfires, by the time the fires happened this year, which was January 7th, we had already had over 100 wildfires in the state. You just didn't know about it because they happen all over the place with such great frequency because we're in extreme weather conditions, extreme drought conditions, and the Santa Anas blow so severely. And so combating climate change is a part of this conversation. I got into a little verbal fight with one of my Republican colleagues on the House floor just last week because folks tend to punch on Los Angeles and punch on Altadena as a shot at Democrats when most of the wildfires that happen in our state happen in Republican areas. And in fact, Altadena is represented by the only Republican on the Board of Supervisors. That's whose charge it was to keep that community safe. This shouldn't be a partisan issue. It should be a people issue. Protecting folks from wildfires, rebuilding from wildfires, that's all of our responsibility, whether you were directly impacted or not. If it hit one of us, it hit all of us.
Yeah, I'm gonna save my comments about that situation with that particular member of the Board of Supervisors for another day. But as everyone knows, we'll be out in Altadena today. When you look at where we are in the state, Biden before he left office took some what I thought was pretty strong measures to protect the coast. But now I'm concerned, is this going to hold up? We see the Trump administration targeting our emissions standards here in the state of California and trying to undo California's ability to protect our own incredible natural beauty. That's what makes our state great. How worried are you that Biden's coastal situation will be reversed, that our own emission standards will be reversed under this current administration? How far can they go, and how well are we protected?
We can fight back. We have the power and the authority to fight back. The Trump administration came out a couple days ago critical of our cap and trade program. For folks who don't know, we established a first in the world kind of market base for carbon emissions, essentially saying you can't pollute more than this amount. And if you are going to pollute more than this amount, you have to buy credits from somebody who's polluting less than that amount. And so we can control the overall emissions across the state, and bad actors can buy credits from really good actors, but everybody has an incentive to be a better actor in the marketplace. It also generates billions of dollars in revenue for the state to invest in climate resilience and green space and communities. That's the program Trump attacked this week, and I'm really grateful that the governor stepped in, as did the pro tem and the speaker in both of our houses, to say, no, we're going to reauthorize this program this year because it expires in 2030. We're going to reauthorize it now and bring some stability to this market and continue to control our own future. The Trump administration doesn't get to tell California who we are, how we should be, or where we're going.
It's going to be a fight. But cap and trade has been criticized on the left and the right. I mean, some environmentalists say this doesn't take anything away. It just allows businesses to sort of move chess pieces on the board.
Yeah, I think it depends on where the cap is at, right? As you lower the cap and move the cap, further down, you control overall emissions. And we've seen other states who have replicated our model. Washington in particular, they just had it reapproved by their voters, who have seen a steeper decline in emissions because they've set more ambitious targets. So we know that the marketplace model can work and will work. We've just got to be honest about our targets, our goals, our emissions reductions that we want to see, and hold the market to those standards.
Okay, I didn't plan to ask you this, but since you said, we can fight back, it comes into my mind. And I heard Tavis talking about this yesterday, that if Kamala Harris does run for governor, does that mean we're public enemy number one even more than, if she wins, does that mean we're public enemy number one even more than we already are now in the eyes of this new Confederate MAGA administration?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I think if there's anything this president has shown, Trump takes shit personally, and he holds it personally forever. He's got the list going back to when he was 5 years old, and he will use whatever tools of the federal government he can to go after you, whether it's the criminal legal system, whether it's civil enforcement system, whether it's from cutting the knees out of vulnerable communities. He remembers which communities didn't vote for him. He remembers everything, which is why he has such a disdain for California, where we still appreciate the diversity of our communities, right? We're striving for equity, and where we have no choice but to be inclusive, because we are, the melting pot of the world right here, even just in Los Angeles. We are everything that he hates and fears, and that the return of white nationalism hates and fears. And we have to keep on being that, because folks need an example, and that example is going to be California.
He remembers everything except Stormy Daniels and E. Jean Carroll.
She remembers him.
No doubt. To the tune of quite a few millions. Assemblymember Isaac Bryan is my guest. When we come forward, we'll talk about where we are with reparations, especially in what could be quite a hostile environment on the federal landscape. That's next on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Hello, this is Dr. Rosa Milligan calling authors and business owners to register now for Black Writers on Tour plus Business and Tech Expo, Saturday, April 26th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Carson Community Center.
Authors, aspiring writers, learn how to write, publish, and sell your book. Business owners, Black folks got the memo, and they're looking for you now. Let them know where you're at. Call 323-750-3592. It's a free event. You heard right, free. And there's something for everybody. Go to blackwritersontour.com and register today. 323-750-3592.
Literacy and technology is everybody's business. Black Writers on Tour, Saturday, April 26th, 10 to 3 p.m. Admission and parking are free. See you there. 323-750-3592. Or visit Black Writers on Tour. Don't you miss it.
Hi, I'm Joe Montaigne. Let's talk about veteran homelessness, because it's not just a housing issue, it's a human issue. Right now, we need LA property owners to open their doors and give veterans a safe place to call home. With guaranteed rent and dedicated support, you can be part of the solution. Learn how you can help. Email houseourvets@lacity.org.
Life blooms in beautiful ways. The Afia Center invites you to celebrate at the end with Red Gala, honoring the strength and resilience of Black women living with HIV. Join us for an evening of empowerment as we launch the Barbara Cambridge Scholarship and kick off Herstory Month with our theme, Life in Full Bloom. Your support helps create vital HIV programming and builds a future where every voice is heard and every story matters. The end with Red Gala, because every flower deserves to bloom.
To learn more and to donate, visit theafiacenter.org.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
The assembly member for the 54th district is here, and one thing about Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, he gonna come into the studio, and so whatever. If y'all say I'm a stan, yes, that's fine. But when I'm talking policy, I'm always going to be clear-eyed about policy, and I happen to like many of the policies that this young brother puts in place. So the stan is based on principle, not just friendship. So. Congratulations to you. You are the recipient of the 2025 UCLA Award for Public Service by the UCLA Alumni Association. I'm sure you get a ton of awards and accolades, but, it must be nice to get one from UCLA.
Honestly, it does, because, as a kid growing up, you either want to be a Trojan or you want to be a Bruin, right? And I wanted to be a Bruin because I was a young hooper, right? And so my dream was to always go to UCLA, and I never thought I would make it there. Took the long route there, and so to get this honor, I think it's probably too soon. I think there's more I could do to earn it, to deserve it, but definitely gonna let it sit fully in and try to continue to live up to the ideals that are worthy of it.
And of course, this is partly because of your work organizing $1 Million Hoods, that research project.
Yeah, and shout out to Kelly Lauder Hernandez.
Absolutely, a brilliant scholar out there. So, talk to me about reparations. As we've run into the ground a million times on the show, you were willing to come in here when the community was very angry that the Legislative Black Caucus did not forward those bills. Now here we are in another legislative session, and a new set of bills have been unveiled.
Yeah, I would say, that's where we are. And, community is always home to me. That's why even in the midst of getting married and disagreeing, with the decisions of the caucus last year and being very clear about that, both in the press and in community, I still showed up, both here in the studio, but also at the Center for Black Power. I wasn't even staff for that. My wife just dropped me off because we live down the block.
And I'm pretty sure she didn't know what she was letting you go into, or she wouldn't have let it happen.
Well, she was annoyed because we had literally just got married, and it's wanting to spend time with. And I said, yeah, I need a couple hours real quick, or however long this takes, because it's important to me. But it's ongoing work. It's going to continue to be ongoing. And I got love for everybody whose heart is in the work in a sincere place. And I think you're starting to kind of see very clearly who is and who isn't moving with sincerity. That doesn't mean we always have to agree. I got 12 brothers and sisters. I don't agree with none of them completely ever. But family business is family business. And I think, we've seen a lot of things, particularly this legislative session, that, that have illuminated very clearly what it will take to move anything going forward. Yeah, that's most of what I got to say.
Do you want to speak to the two agency or bureau bills that are?
Well, there isn't a second one. And there was never a sincere attempt at a second one. And we tried to tell folks that from the beginning. I certainly said it from the beginning. The guy's never passed a bill.
Talking about a Republican.
Yeah, not just a Republican prosecutor who at the same time, is trying to take on the mantle of reparations, is calling reparations unconstitutional and a handout and all of these other things, and running other bills that criminalize our kids in school and so on and so forth. He was a major champion of Prop 36. I mean, this was never real to those of us who know him, right, who have worked with him for years, who have seen his antics across issues. But I understand for folks, who my mom always said, don't mistake, access for influence. And he might have given some folks access, and it made you think that you had influence over this process. I think he definitely got more from you than you got from him. And I think we knew in Sacramento, a long time ago, that this was a very real possibility of him going into the administration. This exact post was being talked about up there. And
into the Trump administration, which is
absolutely.
where he currently is now.
Long before he did his KCRA interview, et cetera. And so we knew this wasn't real. We knew this wasn't sincere. And it's unfortunate that, now there's others who really invested a lot in this process who have found out that it's not. In the same way he's gassing folks up and saying, hey, somebody else will take it up. No, they won't. They absolutely won't. And that's unfortunate.
So the one critique has been that they want an agency and the current bill is a bureau. To me, they sound like synonyms, but is there a legal or legislative difference as far as you're aware?
No, it's really about cost. Putting a bureau inside of an existing structure brings down the cost. And in a down budget year, it's a way to start and then grow. There have been bureaus and agencies that have grown and taken on additional shape of themselves. It's essentially just part of the org chart, but you're saving additional staff positions that could be existing in other capacities already. But policymaking is an ongoing process and dialogue between legislators, their colleagues, the finance department, the appropriations committee, leadership in the houses, the governor, and community. And so all folks got to participate in that process and be heard and engaged. And if folks haven't felt connected to that process, I think we've got to find new approaches to bring folks in so that, I've heard so many. And obviously, I'm not carrying that bill. Dr. Weber Pearson is. But I've heard so many critiques that I'm actually pretty sure could be ironed out if you could get down and sit down with her.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like it's like SB 437, and I'm minding the clock here, so we'll just stay on this for one more moment here, is that it appears to be a study without end that would actually halt other bills from moving forward while we wait for this endless study. Appears that it could be a poison pill in a sense for all of the other reparations bills.
Yeah, I can tell you with absolute confidence that is not the design plan of the chair. She's got other intentions on why we need a verified methodology that the state can use to allocate preference and resources. And I can tell you many of the bills are not contingent on that definitionally being clear yet at all. In fact, some of the bills, including the one that I'm carrying, that I wrote and conceptualized through understanding the politics and dynamics
which
of the
we
day,
could do a whole show on, and I think we should.
Which we could do a whole show on. It goes to committee April 22nd. There are many avenues for why something like this is beneficial. And it's not just establishing the methodology and genealogy. We have to establish the legal framework.
But why not put a sunset on it to alleviate the concerns of the people in the community and people who legitimately think this could tank everything forever?
I think that's actually a real conversation you can have with the chair. I think there might be there might be other folks who are open to trying to help broker policy conversations that lead to productive policy outcomes. But I think it all depends on how you approach. You know what I mean? If you're not everybody gets to meet with elected officials because of capacity, because of time, and most of us don't meet with known opposition. Like, I don't sit down with the oil companies very often. I don't sit down with the sheriffs very often. And I will always try to find a way to sit down with my own folks. And also, my own folks don't turn opposition very often. And so I think now is a moment to try to figure out where we are and where we want to go. And is it about the work or is it not about the work? Because if it becomes too personal, I think that harms the work. It always has. Every black movement and struggle for liberation ever has been, derailed by, conflicting ego and positionality. I try to rise above that or step beside that. And even in this moment, I'm going to do my best to do my part to try to continue to be a bridge towards heading towards the direction of getting us the things that we need, the change that we need, the liberation we need.
Okay, I didn't leave you enough time, but I'm gonna ask you anyway to tell me quickly about the incarcerated firefighters bill.
I'm going to do everything I can to get those folk paid. About 1,000 people saved Los Angeles working on those hand crews while still incarcerated. They did it for slave labor, $5 to $10 a day. They deserve at least federal minimum wage. We're going to fight for that and more, and I'm hopeful.
And that bill is in motion.
That bill is in motion. That bill also has bipartisan support for the same public safety reasons I mentioned earlier. In fact, we just picked up a Republican firefighter as a principal co-author. And so now it's a money conversation. I know I can get it out the House to the governor. Can we put the money in the budget? Can we find the dollars? Are we willing to prioritize incarcerated salaries in a tough budget year? I think we should.
Yeah, well, I think so too. And it was great to see you up at the fire camp talking with the young people. And hopefully, if there's ever a moment where the political will is there, it's right now. It's
got to be. That's my thinking too. If we can't do it now, then when can we?
Remind us how to follow you and keep up with what you're doing.
IB2Real on social media, or Isaac G. Bryan is the state handle. But I'm around. You can find me.
Thank you so much for coming in, Assemblymember.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right. We are talking racial wealth gap when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Black New York Attorney General Letitia James, who convicted Donald Trump for real estate fraud, is now accused of property fraud herself. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director William Pulte referred James to the U.S. Department of Justice for allegations including falsifying documents for loans and misrepresenting a residence for better mortgage rates. James Madison University in Virginia is eliminating its Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion department, resulting in 4 job losses. Funding will be redirected to scholarships and students serving another person. And South African singer Tyla reveals that she has rap songs recorded and may release